All right, so this is going to be podcast episode 1. So don't have a name yet or anything like that, but I do have a guest, and this is a very special guest to me. So years and years ago, back in 2013, probably in, I think it was the summertime, we met at a local grocery store, actually, out in Aurora, Ohio. And from there on, I mean, we sparked a friendship, and I mean, it grew into these amazing collections that we both now carry. And I mean, we just bounce ideas back and forth and help each other out. And I mean, it's been something really cool. So this is Mitch Belleville right here. He's now carrying a whole bunch of different things. How long have you been doing stuff with like animals?
As long as I can remember. I mean, since I was a toddler, we were going to ponds and picking out snakes and frogs and all kinds of stuff. And then I think it really blossomed when after I got my first job and could actually spend my own money,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
We got leopard geckos and different kinds of geckos from random pet shops. I think actually the first species of geckos I started working with were Tarantula.
Yeah, because you moved around a bit.
Yeah.
So you started...
When I lived in Missouri,
Yeah.
was when I got my first geckos, and those were the white-spotted geckos, the Tarantula and Euryalus.
Okay.
And then I got some leopard geckos, and, you remember how long I was in the leopard gecko game for, like 6 years or something like that.
Because you were your collection wasn't like what it was at the peak of it, but like you were investing.
Yeah.
So like I think when we both met at the market, and like I remember when we first initially hit it off, it was a couple days into my time in being there, but we were sweeping.
Yeah.
So we were literally just sweeping and everything like that, and
You like reptiles?
Yeah.
I like reptiles too.
I think you just were like nonchalant talking about leopard geckos, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm getting into ball pythons. And literally, I only had this job because at the time I was starting my senior year of high school, and I was like, junior year of high school. My bad. But I was like, yeah, I'm not saving up for a car or anything like that, but I'm trying to grow my collection of ball pythons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when like single morphs and like codominant genes were like hot and like really pricey.
The pieds were even like, I think still like $5,000 or something like that.
Yeah, pieds were really pricey. But yeah, so literally at that time I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get all these nice codominant genes, but I'm like, if I'm gonna get all these, I need to make some money. So, and everyone's like, you're not gonna get a car or anything like that? I'm like, nah, it's fine. I don't need a car. I don't go anywhere. So, so you were mentioning something about leopard geckos, and I said, yeah, I'm getting into ball pythons. He's like, oh, we should do some things together and stuff like that. So, ever since then,
it blossomed.
You
got the job at Pet Supplies Plus, and then asked me to come over there, and I was like, sure.
And the ironic thing is like, I needed the job because I was starting my junior year. I was like going into football. So I went from doing football from like January to like August. Never played football before in my life prior, and I was just doing practices, and they're like, you show up to all the practices, why are you quitting? I'm like, oh, I'm starting with reptiles now. They're like, oh, okay, didn't think anything of it. They're like, they're like, moving on from there. Yeah, so the ironic thing going back to like the job was I kept applying to pet stores, because I'm like, I don't want to work with food, I don't want to work in a restaurant, I don't want to work anything like with a supermarket or anything like that, and I'm like, all right, I'll apply for the pet store Pet Supplies that we were at, because they were just opening that position.
Yep, that was in Solon.
Yeah, that was in Solon, and I think it was right before they moved. So I don't know if that's why they turned me down 3 times. So like bottom of the story was like they kept turning me down. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm not fit for whatever reason.
Dude, you and I were like the 2 best fit people in that whole building.
Right, honestly,
and Tom.
Yeah, no kidding, our boss Tom. But yeah, Tom kept turning me down. I'll say so.
But yeah, I remember when they were over in that plaza next to that other Marks.
By the other Marks, and by the Marks is the supermarket that we were a part of. Very small chain, everything like that. Yeah. Not the best. Honestly, pretty gross.
Yeah. Well, they're nicer now, but...
they are? I haven't been in it probably... I've probably been in it once since I worked there.
We've got one down the street, and, like, that's how they're remodeling them. Like, they've got, like, a nice produce section. It's, like, 3 times the size of the one in Aurora now.
Yeah.
They've got a meat counter, like, all kinds of stuff. Like, it's really nice.
Huh.
It's like Giant Eagle almost, kind of.
Ours was not a good layout. It was not clean, and
awful.
Truthfully, like I would always stay on the one side of the store, and I remember just saying, like, someone would come up to me, they'd be like, where is blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I have no idea. And I'd point them to the pharmacy. I direct them that way. I'm like, that's the other side of the
Somewhere
store.
over there.
Leave me alone. The only time I wouldn't do that is if it was like an old lady or something like that. I'm like, all right, I feel bad for you. I'm not going to do that on you.
The amount of time that I worked there, I had over 22 different managers.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy, like how fast they were moving stuff around.
From July to October when I worked there, I probably went through like 7 of those.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Then they upped me. It was like a promotion to meat department.
Yeah.
So it's like from stock boy to meat department. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. The promotion that they give you that they don't pay you for.
Right. Basically. But yeah, then we went to the pet store and then kind of skyrocketed from there. I mean, we met a whole bunch of different people from that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Gained a whole bunch of supplies too from people that were just giving it away. I mean, if you're looking to get supplies from someone, I mean, work at a pet store because a whole bunch of people just start giving things away, and it's pretty cool. But
I got boas. I
did too. Rosy boa.
Yeah. I got a huge it was just a red tail, but it was like a beautiful salmon pink color and covered in mites. Yeah. But fixed it up.
A lot of them weren't the best of shape. I mean, if people are just kind of.
Dude, I got like $3,000 worth of vision cages. Yeah. For like $200.
Yeah.
Like, if you want them, come get them. Someone tried to give me like a adult retic. It was huge, like bigger than me. Like, in girth comparison, and I'm like, nope. Yeah. Sorry, not doing it. Yeah, the amount of stuff that people were giving away was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of. I mean, we could chat all day about the crazy experiences from that. And we should probably do that sometime because there's a lot. I mean,
dude, I still talk to customers.
I do too. Yeah, I still like from friend lists and stuff like that. Yeah. Some of them I'm like, I don't know who the hell they are, but I'm and then they just show up. I'm like, oh, I remember why. Yep. But I just kind of keep them in there. I'm like, I'm probably never going to talk to this person again, but I'm like, I'll keep them on there just so I can kind of just hit that memory bank. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I can't remember this, But yeah, so going back to getting back into reptiles and like getting into reptiles like to begin with, what was your story?
I guess after leopard geckos, I kind of met some people that got me into different species, and I was like, all right, cool, I'll branch out a little bit. Started with the Abronia. Those were that was a kick that I had for a while, and those were super fun. I think that got me into the more like obscure kind of species that not a lot of people work with. Sure. And at the time I was all about geckos, so I'm like, you know what? Let's find the geckos out there that no one really works with. So like a lot of species from Madagascar, Africa, Australia. And
by this point, you were basically weaning out to basically diminishing your leopard geckos.
Yes. Yeah. So.
So that helped pay for like this new cycle in chapter.
Exactly. Yeah. I had hundreds of leopard geckos,
because you were going show to show with those.
Yeah. I was vending shows. I was trading. I was selling, shipping, everything, and I had some like really really cool stuff, like very expensive, high quality stuff. Lineage was always perfect. I never had to guess. It was always, I knew what was going on.
People would come to you.
Yeah, I kept extensive records, like everything. I tried crested geckos too, New Caledonian species, and those were fun. But after that, the obscure and more rare geckos, those took off for a few years. I was doing really well with those. I liked working with them. And then, Herps Alive messaged me about the spiny tailed iguanas that they got in. Yeah. And, they're like, if you want them, I trust you, you can take them. And
that was like, what, a year ago or so?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago or so. The only reason I even considered it was because my buddy has a pair of the Baker Eye, the Utila iguanas, and, I could never see myself owning an iguana in my entire life. Yeah. I hated iguanas, they're too big, they just take up too much space. But after seeing those Baker Eye, I was just mesmerized by them. Yeah. Like, I loved the blue colors on them. They were just the coolest thing. So I started, researching them and seeing, what if I could house them, if they'd be something worth working with, not even for breeding, but just for hanging out with, you know, especially considering the endangered aspect of them as well. Yeah. And then, once Herp's Alive sent me the message about him, I went to go check him out, and I was like, sure, it's something I can afford. This is the Alfred Schmidtii are species that like you don't see, you never see them. It's like, all right, I have to have these. So I brought them in, and then after that, I picked up my own Bakeri from a local breeder.
Sure.
And I fell in love. That started an addiction that I cannot kick now. And the iguanas are just completely taking off. I have almost all the species of Tenosara.
Nice thing too is they're like mid-range size too.
Yeah.
So they're not like huge, ginormous green iguanas that you would see or anything like that. They're
the largest one that I have is
species.
probably that male Bakeri that you saw,
Yeah.
and then that female black-chested, the melanosterna.
No, those look really nice.
Yeah. So those are probably the biggest that I have, and the biggest that they're going to be.
Yeah.
So there's 2 other species down there that might get a little bit bigger, but we'll find out.
Yeah. So you think you'll be pretty stuck with these species, or are you trying to solidify elsewhere with other ones?
I invested a lot of time, money, and patience into the iguanas.
Because your room looks completely different down there.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, holy cow.
And I've made a lot of cool friends that work with iguanas, and I have species now that you'll never see around. Yeah. So those are definitely reasons, because again, I'm always looking for the more obscure stuff, the more stuff that people don't really work with, and,
sure.
and some of the species I have down there are just like, again, you'll never see.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. I think that the iguana game is definitely taking off, and again, meeting new people and learning new things, and they're fun. They test my own patience. They make me work. So I go downstairs and I go to feed them, and I'm down there for hours just like checking every tiny detail of animals. Like I said, I separated those baby Bakeri. As soon as I noticed, a very small size difference in them, I immediately separated them.
Sure.
And, a year ago, if I was working with different species, I probably wouldn't have noticed something like that. But it's the iguanas that I'm, so invested in now that I think that they're just going to completely take off, and it's going to be so much fun when I start breeding.
Oh, yeah.
them. Yeah.
So, like, with the endangered species, like, when did that start kicking in that you want to work with stuff more endangered?
Well, that's probably when I saw my first Abronia. It was at a Tinley show. I don't even remember. It was probably... it was definitely one of the first Abronia, like, that went viral,
okay.
On social media. That, when I first saw that animal, I was like, it's cool. Definitely something I wouldn't own, but it's cool. It got me thinking, like, you can own and you can work with endangered species. It's not something that's so far-fetched anymore. There's a lot of different opportunities that you can have once you show your credibility and
once you abide by certain curriculum.
Exactly. Yeah. So after seeing that Abronia for the first time, I was like, okay, cool. And then I think it was a couple of years after that I was like, I think I kind of want to get into them. And I had some species that again I didn't know that they were endangered at the time.
Yeah.
And then I was breeding them and doing great with them, and again, now almost all my species are endangered, so it's fun. It's something that makes you work a little harder, knowing that they're relying on you, for the continuity of their species.
Sure.
So yeah, it's fun. It's rewarding. So
no, that's for sure. And I'm surprised too, like, and this is just kind of like a suggestion, don't mean to put you on the spot with it, but like, you have a great following with like all that and everything like that, and you have like very unique things, like you were saying. You should be posting more about that kind of stuff, just kind of like.
But that's the thing too, is like, I would post more. It's just I am very self-conscious about like how I care for my animals.
Sure.
I know that there's people out there that are doing it better.
Yeah.
I know that anytime I post something, someone's going to look at it and be like, that's not how to do it. And then,
but a lot of people seek out you, though. I wouldn't say, like, you have to make videos, but I'm saying, like, if you just make and post, like, hey, this is blah, blah, blah species.
Yeah.
and anything like that. And
yeah, and it's
kind of like how you saw that at Bronia. I mean, that could,
right.
It just kind of branches out from there.
Exactly, but with as much positive influx that could get, it also brings the negative side of it too. And that's what, and not even backlash, but the illegal imports of Abronia now are skyrocketing. Yeah. I mean, and that's because they're getting more
publicity.
Yeah. So like, a lot of I'm in all the Abronia groups now, and 90% of what I'm seeing is wild caught. Yeah. It's very hard to see any people who are truly invested in them that are breeding them successfully for one, keeping them successfully for one, breeding them successfully, and then distributing them responsibly. That's very hard to find. It's a lot of these newcomers that see the bright green animals or the calico animals, and they're like, I want these. I need to find a female, and then the illegal importers get in touch with them. They either screw them over for tons of money, or they send them animals that are
at that store,
exactly, wrapped in tube stocks, and that's what you get. And they pay for them, and they don't learn their lesson, and that's what happens. There's a lot of people, in Florida, Texas, that are in California that are doing that now, and that was a big step for Urban Arc as well. But there's a lot of different, there's a new rescue or conservation organization out there. It's called the Cloud Alliance, or the Abronia Cloud Alliance, something like that. I think I only heard about them a couple days ago, but I guess they're doing some big things with Abronia now, and they're pretty responsible, and members of Urban Arc are a part of that now. So again, it's just come and go kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I mentioned that, as a suggestion, because like you said, you seeing that species, it kind of started something for the positive. And I mean, hopefully, right. That's kind of what you go with these things, is good, based on good intention. Yeah. So when I first started with ball pythons, I didn't have a snake probably for 3 years in my life, ever since before I was young. Yeah. Honestly, but because I started with garters, and then I started with corn snakes. And then it moved on from there, where I was branching into ball pythons. And at that time I didn't know anything. I just picked up a normal from PetSmart, and I still have that normal today. But so from there, a couple years later, I'm you know what, I want to get another one of these. So I got a pastel. And I'll remember how this all started. I was really young at the time, but it was just a baby pastel. Went to my first reptile show, everything like that. Still wasn't really fully understanding all these different colorations, right. And I was truthfully, I didn't even know it was the same animal. So I'm oh, okay, I thought this was really cool. And I mean, it was probably the worst impulse thing ever, but it kind of struck a chord with me, honestly, where one, I didn't get from a really good breeder, I'll tell you that. Covered in mites, everything, but I was completely oblivious on that. But the other thing too was, because it was a baby, it was constantly striking at me. I'm oh my god, what the hell is going on? And I didn't understand it. So I was looking up things, and then I went down a rabbit hole of just YouTube videos, and I was just seeing how to breed these, and all the different colorations and stuff like that, and then different species and everything like that. But the ball pythons really struck with me. I was oh my god, people were there's thousands of different colors, and you can kind of play mad scientist with this. I'm oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. So me being someone that was into biology, and that was the only science I was into in school and really cared about, I was okay, I understand what's going on here, and I'm I understand how the genetics work and everything. So
that's basically exactly the same thing I did with leopard kangaroos.
Yeah. You know? So I was just because I mean, hundreds of thousands of different morphs with those too. So at the time, I mean, it was later in the game of getting into ball pythons and stuff like that, but it wasn't too late. I mean, it was around 2011, 2012 ish when I got that second one, and then after that, I started learning a little bit more and watching a whole bunch of videos, and then in 2013, that's when I was all right, I'm gonna start saving up, and I bought them, and I bought my first trio of females and stuff like that, and I was this is great.
Those were the if I remember, what were they?
So super pastel female, They were all females. Super pastel female. I got a spider.
Mojave, right?
No.
Because I remember you bought a big female Mojave.
Yeah, so I bought that 2 years later.
You couldn't get them to breed.
No, yeah, I couldn't get her to breed or anything. She was a proven female. I'm like, are you sure? And everything like that. This was the most like eerie thing ever too, because it was like first buy off of Facebook.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I remember because
man.
we were talking about it for like the longest time.
Yeah,
you got them shipped to your dad's office or something, right?
Yeah, I got her shipped to my dad's office, and yeah, that was like the really eerie thing. But like, I know she's a female.
Yeah,
everything like that. Like that's been confirmed. But like, yeah, she just won't go. And but like, I don't know, just the timidness. But like, I think because I only had 2 opportunities to breed her when I first got her. And she didn't go either of those times, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. But then when I moved, I was starting school again and everything like that. I'm like, I'm not gonna breed until I'm like solidified and stuff like that. So now I've moved again, and literally, I mean, when we're filming this is probably not gonna come out for months later, but when we're filming this, it's November right now. So I started breeding this week, and I mean, the females that I've locked in with males, I mean, they've already locked up like quick within 2 hours of putting them in because of the storms and stuff like that were happening. I was like, oh, okay, so
awesome.
We're back in it now, but yeah, hopefully I'm trying to figure out. I haven't fully decided who I'm pairing her with yet, but that's the one that I'm homing in on. I'm like, all right, I want to figure out if you're breeding, otherwise I'm selling you as a pet.
Yeah, right. I remember when I think we were still at Pet Supplies Plus, and you're like, okay, I'm cutting my first set of ball python eggs.
Yep.
And I drove over to your house, and that was the first and only time I've ever seen ball pythons being cut open, like other than YouTube and you know that, but in person, helping you out with it, watching it.
And those are the fun ones because they were pieds.
Yeah, that was so cool. That was like yeah, it's cool. I've hatched out probably 300, 400 leopard geckos before that, and other species, but being able to like cut open an egg and like seeing a snake inside of it, especially pieds.
Oh yeah,
that was unbelievable, and I still think about that every day, and I tell people about it all the time. Like, dude, my buddy called me over and we got to cut snake eggs. It was cool. It was awesome.
Drink iced coffees.
Yeah, the iced coffees. Yeah, frappuccinos.
Oh yeah, but that was I mean, I regret not. I mean, that male, he throws out some wicked patterning. I don't know, but so I really want to I'm excited because I'm pairing him again with a couple of them. While my other male pied gets bigger. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to get back into it because I've been out of it for so long, and now I'm going like full stretch because now I have the ability to. So not just doing I think I did at that time 3 females. Sadly, one of those clutches didn't make it, but I did 3 females at the time, sold all the babies, which was another big regret. I don't know why I did that. I think the ones that I wanted to keep were like the double heads for albino and pied, and being an idiot that I was, I'm like, all right, just starting school, I need to get rid of these because I'm like, I bit off more than I could chew. So I'm like, all right, I can't even raise one of these right now because I'm fully stocked. So right now I could have been starting to breed into the project of albino pied. So it's a bummer, but now I'm getting back into it. So now we'll start that over again.
You live and you learn. I've made deals like that before, and like, oh man, I wish I didn't sell that animal. Yeah. But
and truthfully, I mean, it was never for the money. Like I was saying, for the Mojaves and stuff like that. It's more so I want to do cool things because I love the Mojave gene. And if she's not doing it or anything like that, then that's fine. I mean, totally cool. But I want to get into that. So I'm totally fine just getting rid of her as a pet or something like that. And being full disclosure, she hasn't been going for me. Give it a whirl, but I mean, we'll kind of see from there. But who knows? Maybe this year will be the kicker. But yeah, so from ball pythons, really, I mean, I went from that to now I'm like, okay, while I had that downtime, I was just I was still deeply into it and invested into it, where I was going to shows constantly and doing a whole bunch of different things, and I was seeing more what people were doing and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I definitely want to stay in the snake realm of things. Because, I mean, I've had a whole bunch of rescues like we were talking about from pet stores where people will be like, oh, can you take care of my old crested gecko? Or people would come in with very, I even posted this, a very malnourished, on death's door day gecko that only lived with me for probably 3 months before he kicked the bucket.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know, geckos were never my sweet spot. So different species of snakes and stuff like that, I mean, I would love to get into. Yeah, so I'm debating now, once I have these ball pythons and everything like that, and I'm starting to vend my own shows with them, using that and not putting that money towards me, but like more so investing into getting into these other projects like you did with the leopard geckos, moving into like other stages of things.
Yeah. So. And you, so you're getting into like the what are they, the red-tailed green rat snake?
Yeah, so that's been like an ongoing project too for like the past 3 years. That was probably the only project that I started when I was in my old place. I'm like, all right, I can manage these, but they're really hard to come by. And when you do, I mean, they're so beat up. Like I saw one like
farm bred.
Yeah, farm bred ones from Java and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes those are coming good, but I mean, still at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of these are coming in wild caught. Yeah. So, and they're all coming from all Southeast Asia, different areas. So I think the best luck that I've had is ones from Malaysia. Best in temperament wise and best in terms of how they're coming in terms of how they look. I think I've had the best luck. I mean, I saw a silver phase. He caught my eye while I was at the show last weekend, and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, okay, but like I just saw him like wrapped up, and then I took him out because they were selling him pretty cheap. So I was like, oh, what do you know about this guy and everything? He's like, oh, I got him passed down to me like I'm the third person that had him.
No, yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, you got to pay me to take this. So I'm just looking at it like, oh man, the price you have is not going to cut it for me. So then I was looking at them even more. I mean, they're all scraped up, scales missing. I mean, it looked like he went through a prolapse. I mean, nothing was looking good on him. And I felt so. I mean, you can only feel bad for these animals, you know. I mean, but I'm like, I can't really risk it taking him in, and then. Even if I isolate him, I'm going to be paranoid that he's going to catch something into the other guys. And I'm like, it's such a fragile project for me. I mean, I've already gone through 3 females that just keep kicking the bucket. I mean, the longest one that I had, she was doing amazing for the longest time, and then they just die on you. And I'm like, this is insane. I've treated them, everything like that. Still the same thing happens. So, yeah, I still have the male. The male I've had for about 2 years now. He's been great. Kind of toning down a little bit more. It's great now because before I wasn't able to take him out as much because if I took him out, he would get into anything because it was such a cluttered mess. But now I have this open area where I can literally take him out. He can kind of like hold him by the tail and kind of like let him walk like a dog on the ground and everything like that. And he's totally fine. And I think that mellows him out more where he's not like trying to find a place to hide where it's more open.
Because I remember when I came up for Tinley that one March. He was in that the black enclosure. I think
he's still in there.
Yeah, I remember he was pretty spunky.
Oh yeah. I mean, he still is. I mean, he'll still take a bite out of me if he wants. And I mean, even so, I think like the following weekend after you came up, I had a friend come over and he did some photos of me just because I was trying to up some stuff for YouTube. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm going to take him out to do photos. And I'm like, beware, he may bite me. So I'm like, don't freak out if that happens. You may have to wipe some blood off before we take these photos. But like, I took him out. Honest to God, never had this experience with him since. But like, took him out. He rested on my arm, and we just took the photos. And like, my face was like, and I'm like literally experiencing shock right now. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this guy?
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think it's definitely a species, like you said, like a lot of people don't work with it and they're coming in a lot wild caught. And I want to work with something that I can breed up. And I've had people reach out to me because they've seen this guy and they're like, hey, how are you having so much success with these? Because mine keep dying on me. Right. And I'm like, truthfully, I'm trying to make it mimic the climate and just comfort these animals as much as I can because these guys are already coming in real stressed and finicky. So if I can just keep these guys pretty mellow, I'm sure the captive babies I can have a little bit more leeway with, but the first generation is going to be the hardest for these guys. So I'm just trying to find a good female right now that I can just kind of throw them together with and hopefully get some captives out of it. But
it's got to be in the way. I mean, if no one's really having any luck with them, you know, it has to be something along the lines of how they're being captured. Yeah. Because
they're so fragile.
Yeah.
You know?
If you could treat them. You know, you can eliminate the parasites. Yeah. But if you've got broken bones that you don't know about, if you've got like neural damage from, you know, pesticides or chemicals or gasoline they're using to catch them, you know, it all depends. Or it's something with barometric pressure while they're shipping them over here, you know, it all depends, but it's got to be something along those lines.
And sitting idle in a box or a bag or anything like that for so long. But like, I think that's a mix of it. And I think also too, the market is very niche for those guys, but I mean, that's again, not why I'm in them. But like a lot of people don't like that they're very nippy and stuff like that too, you know? So a lot of people like get them and then they're like, you see where they're passing them down and stuff like that. And they're like, this thing's too much for me. Because I know some people that are like, yeah, I've seen some rat snakes and some snakes, and they're thinking it's like a corn snake where it's going to be so mellow. And these guys are like pistols. Yep. And they're coming at you full-fledged. They'll puff up and they go at you. I'm like, I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind the adrenaline of that or anything like that. Some people are like, I don't need that kind of stress in my life right now, so... right, the green tree python right there. So I'm just like, I don't mind that at all. I don't think that's been an issue for me, and I want to work with these because I know if I can get the babies, I mean... I've seen it with a lot of people that raise up a whole bunch of different things, whether it's monitors or any type of snake. I mean, if they're handled well and stuff like that, I mean, you're going to get probably something that's still going to be pretty defensive at you, but I mean, something that's going to be definitely more mellow that you'll be able to take it out a little bit more and not worry about your face getting bit. Right. So that's kind of what I'm trying to go for and lighten the amount that are being taken from the wild because... A lot of people are having success I'm seeing overseas that are getting these in the groups that I'm in, but very few people are working on captive born and bred here. So
yeah, I don't know anyone who's working with them over here. Yeah. I don't know a single person who has.
There's another person here, and then I think one person in Michigan, and
maybe the Zirkles. I don't know because I
don't know if they
have
them. I know they have. Snakes. Yeah, they have a different. Species that's very similar to them, but I don't think they have the red tails. At least to my knowledge, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's kind of the growing thing with those. And then I want to work with more colubrids. I like those because, like I said, the ball pythons are great. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, besides the colorations and the cool patterning, I mean, it's not an animal that necessarily interacts as much. It's very sit still.
I remember we were talking about the colubrids that I wanted to get into. Yeah. I found the two species. They're the Thai mountain rat snakes, the bamboo rat snakes. Yeah. So there's the there's two species. Well, there's the mandarins I like too, the yellow and black, and those are beautiful animals. And then there's the Oreo I can't even pronounce it. I don't remember what they're called. But those are the mountain Thai bamboo rat snakes. And there's another, the coxie. I see them every once in a while, and I always forget to take a damn screenshot of it. And then I'm sitting here like we are now, trying to remember what the hell it's called.
Oh, it's like that gecko in the basement. Like, which one did you have? And it was like the size of your forearm, and it looked kind of brown. I'm like, those are cool. I'm like, that's a shame.
But those are gorgeous animals, and I think that if I ever got into colubrids and half the reason I bought that 16-quart rack down there is because I was thinking about it. That or like Kenyan sand boas, or I like the rough scaled sand boas.
Those are nice.
Oh, beautiful. I know Scales and Tails just got 2 of them in, and they're not a bad price on them. I know they're probably wild caught, but there's not a bad price on them right now, and I would definitely like to get into those. Yeah. But you also have the Womas too.
Yeah. So branching out more, I was like, I love Australian species. Yeah. I've always kind of leaned towards those guys.
Also because too. No one else can get their hands on them.
I know, I was going to say, like, it's so difficult because you can't import or anything like that. And I mean, there's been not much that you can really necessarily work with, I mean, versus what they have, they cut that pretty quick. But, in terms of things that have been structurally sound around here, I mean, again, Womas, they're not really worked with around here as much. And even when I was at the show last week, I saw a pair, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe these jumped up like a few $100 in price. Wow. So I'm like, dang, I need to get my mail quick. Yeah. So thankfully, I think I have a couple friends that are going to hook me up with one, because that's all I need. I have 2 females. And literally that was the only bite thus far in 2020 that I've had is from one of my Womas. And it was literally right after a shoot. It was still feeding night. And she came at me and she just nicked me right there. I'm like, oh my god, but like, they're not... That was the first time I took a bite from a Woma python. I'm like, they are no joke with their jaws like people were saying.
Oh, because, really?
Yeah, I mean, they're like pit bulls. So like they
latch on? And...
They will latch. She didn't latch, but I mean, they definitely have them a more distinct tooth to them,
Really?
where like it's definitely like, oh my god, but like I couldn't imagine taking that from a bigger one, but
jeez. Yeah, I know.
It'll happen. I'm sure she'll do it. You know, that's just a foreshadowing thing.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime I see a woman python for sale, I mean, I'm always sending you like the link to it or.
I always feel bad because I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm not gonna get it right now.
Yeah.
But like, I know one of those times I'm gonna probably get it. But like
anytime you see me add you to a group, chances are it's because someone just posted a WOMA and I didn't see that you were in the group. Then I forget. Once I see you accept the invite, I'm like, okay, cool, he's in. Why did I add him?
And that's the thing too, like it's Black Friday right now and a lot of people are doing deals and I'm like, I looked at a little bit of them, but I'm like, I gotta stop because I'm like, I know I'm gonna have a whole bunch of production right now that's coming out and I'm really excited about it. So like with the ball pythons, I'm like, let me get through this year, bank all that money that I hopefully make from all these guys because there are gonna be some really cool morphs with them, and then I'm kind of making a list on the side of like, all right, if I don't see myself getting too much bigger with like raising my collection with the ball pythons as much, maybe keeping here and there a couple and like maybe hold back 5, but like I definitely want to start expanding out to other species that I wanted to work with and just kind of see from there what I want to do. So just kind of see what is in the cards later down the line.
Get into blackheads.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them that I would want to get into. I'm learning more and more about how they're breeding because a lot of people were turned off from them because of their breeding cycles and stuff like that. So a lot of the babies, they don't eat straight up. Like you can offer them like any sort of bird, rodent, or really anything, and they're still not taking. So people will resort to like force feeding them and stuff like that if worse came to worse. And I mean, that's what turns a lot of people off from them. Yeah. But a lot of people I'm seeing now are saying like, I don't know, some people are saying, oh, it's a lineage thing. Sometimes like some of them will eat if it's that kind of ordeal, and I'm like, that's weird, but okay. And then other people I've just seen like little tips and tricks that I've seen, and they're like, oh, these will work fine. So I'm like,
are they dying like the babies, or are they just
not necessarily? I mean, they'll go to a point of a little bit more past concern. Yeah. Where people are like, okay, now we have to force feed them. And normally once you force feed them a couple times, then you can just kind of stick the head of, like, say if it was like a pup, of like a mouse pup or something like that, inside the mouth. Normally they'll start taking and kind of go from there. But, I mean, that can take 3 to 4 feedings sometimes for some of them, is what I've been hearing. And that's exhausting. As the running total. So I'm like, tedious. Yeah, if you're going through like a whole bunch of those, you know, I mean, it's fine if you have like maybe like 3 of those that you're doing, but if you're going through a whole clutch of those and then maybe multiple clutches, that's a lot. You know, that's going to take up a lot of your day. And then like if they regurgitate it or if they don't take it or anything like that, then you have to keep checking that too. I don't know. So I definitely would want to start off and learn more about that because I like that kind of challenge too, and I think that's what's drawing me to like those red tails as well too, is doing those kind of things and seeing what I can work with and kind of pushing and seeing like, well, a lot of people, I mean, people have been beating a dead horse with ball pythons for a long time where like, though I'm doing stuff with them and like trying to teach people, like people have been doing it way beyond me and doing much more. So I want to kind of find something where I can kind of bring a little bit more to the table and do a little bit with, just because I think it would add a little bit more variety to people and stuff like that, and kind of
that's the thing with ball pythons too, is that they're always going to be around. People are always going to be breeding them. They're always that entry level species too. So like you're always going to have that educational aspect to them too. You're always going to find people that are going to want to learn how to do what with them and how to breed them, how to take care of them. Want to learn about the genetics and lineage and stuff. Yeah. And then they're always going to sell. Yeah. They're always going to sell. You can always find new stuff to buy, add to your collection. So it's just, that is a never-ending cycle. Yeah. Unless there's like an apocalyptic disease that hits with just ball pythons and ends up killing them. Yeah. Then those.
Because there was something like that with leopard geckos, wasn't there? That there was some sort of lineage that people were breeding into things and like
lemon frost.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm so out of like the new upcoming morphs, you know. I mean, I'm still thinking like morphs that were back in like 2015. Now I'm seeing things that they may even be like a one-off morph, but I'm like, oh, those are kind of cool, and I take a picture of it, but I'm like, I don't know the genetics of this thing whatsoever, because now we're like 5 genes deep and stuff like that. I'm like, here I am with my 2 and 3 gene animals, and I'm like, I don't know. It's more so just working with what I want, you know? I mean, it's not anything, you're going to get an audience and people will come to that just out of the respect for that, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying to carry to a broad audience and trying to work with certain species and then kind of go from there. Because I don't know, I think that's more interesting. And I think I spend more time at tables, at shows especially, that aren't just straight up ball pythons. Not that that's wrong and there's anything wrong with it, but like seen it, you know, I've had it, I've seen it.
Yeah.
And like if I'm gonna do ball pythons still, I want it to be unique things that I want to have interest in, because I want to be at my table thinking like from someone that's on the other side and be like, okay, these are really cool, and like, what else do you got? And like kind of have that conversation of like, oh, this is other things that I'm trying to work with, and kind of get a gateway going for those people too. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's how you strike a whole bunch of cool friendships and stuff like that too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, that's what I did. You know, is when I had my table full of leopard geckos. Yeah, they would sell, and yeah, I would talk to people just about leopard geckos. But like every show that I vended, people would always ask, "What else do you have?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else? Are you working with anything else?" So you know, I did start working with other things. I started breeding Pictus geckos, African fat tails, cresteds, and I think that was it at the time. But I had more variety on my table, you know, and that got into more conversations about this and that. I would sell a leopard gecko and a Pictus gecko, or a leopard gecko and a crested gecko, you know.
And trades would happen and everything like that. And that's kind of how you came into that world.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it was fun. Now I've got a Canthosora, the mountain horn dragons that I've got 40 eggs incubating now, and could be the only person in the country to have captive bred babies if they all survive.
That's huge.
Yeah. So, well, I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 other people that have them. I don't know what they did with them. I don't know if they survived. I don't know if they sold them, if they kept them, whatever. But I know that there aren't. I've never seen one, and I've never seen a picture of one. I've never heard of any.
Yeah.
So actually, all the information I have of breeding them and keeping them was written in Vietnam. So I had to translate it.
Now, do you document your things and stuff like that? Yeah. So like that's another thing. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like a social media thing, but like if you're writing the articles and stuff like that and kind of throwing that out of the blast, I mean that's going to be a huge thing.
Oh, for sure. If I'm having success with these, I'm definitely going to write it up because there's nothing out there. Yeah. You know, I even had to. Sadly, one of my females got egg bound, and out of every single species, the hundreds and hundreds of animals that I've had, I've never had an egg-bound female of any species until now. And again, these were all wild-caught animals. I bred them. They didn't come in gravid. But she was egg-bound. I knew she was egg-bound, and I had a choice of either to cut her open while she was still alive or, you know, euthanize her, whatever I could do. I kept her as comfortable as possible, waited the second she passed. I knew she was passed. I cut her open, saved the eggs. Now they're incubating. So, yeah, that was the first time I had to do that. It was a weird experience, but, you know, owning reptiles and, you know, again, trying to preserve the continuity of the species is, you're going to have to do stuff like that, you know? So, it was weird, but, you know, I'm hoping they all hatch.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you gotta make the sacrifices and stuff like that. Like I know you said you have one of the only known males of a certain species down there that, unfortunately, you know, another breeder that there's just passed and stuff like that. So it's kind of one of those things where you gotta see what you can do to preserve it and everything like that, so they don't come in again in imports. So. Yeah, working with those things. I mean, all eyes are on you with that.
Right. Yeah.
No pressure. Don't kill it.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and that's why I'm being as careful as possible, and you know, spending the time with the animals. And at this point, it's not even about socialization with that species. It's like 100% like. You have a crease in your skin. Are you too skinny? You know, like what's going on?
Right.
Like, are you eating? You know, checking their mouths at like literally things that I could not even consider doing when I had like 300, 400 leopard geckos at a time. You know, like checking each nail, and like it's just crazy, you know, the intricate processes that I have with these animals now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that I care more about them than I did my other species. It's that like I'm not working with a species that has 5 million of them produced a year,
right.
like leopard geckos or ball pythons.
Well, there's a lot of knowledge about it.
Yeah, I have animals again where there's only one of in the country.
Right.
So
it's like you're up in space and you're trying to lock to the International Space Station. I got one shot here.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it goes. You know, it's fun. It's an experience, and
I think too, like going back to kind of tie this full circle, like how you've transformed from the leopard geckos to here. I mean, I think like the care and everything like that has only progressed on positively. You know, so I think like even walking down there, like. Normally you'd see like obviously it was because you had geckos, but they would all scatter.
Yeah.
You know? So like these guys, you walk down there and they're all looking at you. They're all running up to you.
They want to come out.
They want to come out. They want to be socialized. They want to like see you, and obviously they want food from you. Right. But like they are more acquainted with you and not wants to be flighty. Right. So I think that's been
I love that. That's another thing about the genus too, is that like working with them is that they always want to be social, and it's all the animals I have now, other than my silly Cuban night anoles that I picked up as a rescue. All the animals except them genuinely want to have an interaction. Yeah. You know, they want to come out. They're very curious, and right before you pulled in my driveway, I was holding my emerald tree skinks. Yeah. You know, just kind of, I was spraying them down. They jump out, they leap on me, and climb, and I can hold them and stuff. But they're all wild calling. When I first got them, I mean, they were bolting across the room. Sure. I couldn't do anything. And now they've gotten so used to me that anytime I go near them, they think, "Oh, food? Yeah. Can we hang out? Like, what's going on?"
Like, you even opened the cage for the one of them, and I mean, he just climbed up on your shoe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He didn't run for the hills. So.
He does it all the time too. He's nuts. So.
No, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I wanted this to. I'm really happy this happened. I mean, this has been something I've been wanting to do for the longest time, and I wanted you to be the first guest because I mean, we've hit that mark with each other where we've been friends for now 7 years, and I mean everything kind of started off with like that discussion while we were sweeping floors at Mark's with reptiles and stuff like that. So I mean, I think that's a pretty pinnacle thing for me, that I mean, I remember that moment clearly. And I remember too, like, you were like, "Oh, watch this trick," and we were like going past watermelons, and there was some girl like really late at night, and you're like, "So I was showering with my dad." And you're like, "Just play along with it." And I'm like, "All right, I think we're gonna be great friends." So I'm like, I'm happy that it stayed that way and stuff like that.
I remember that. Yep.
Like, literally, that was the first experience. And I'm like, "Oh man, this is good."
Yeah.
So from there, I mean, I think it's been very important for me to have this and make this podcast. I think it doesn't have a name yet. If you guys have suggestions down below, let me know. But the name that's running right now is Put to Scale.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
I think that would be a pretty cool name. But I mean, if there's other ones, I'll keep calling it the podcast right now. So
I like that.
I like that one though.
Yeah, that's really cool.
When I first came up with the idea of doing a podcast, because I love podcasts. I mean, I'm always listening to one while I'm doing like my cleanings and stuff like that. Like, I'm itching for it. Yeah. It's like that meme where he's like, "You got any podcasts?" But I was just like, all right, I could do this. I mean, I think it just kind of is something fun to do. You know, I think it would be really fun. So my goal is to do this probably once a month, if it works out. And I mean, even that's being nerve-wracking for me. I'm like, holy crap, I gotta find 12 people that would want to do this. But I think that would be cool, and then kind of making it something maybe weekly or something like that too down the line. But
I'm always willing to do the webcam podcast as well.
Like Zoom and stuff like that. I'm trying to learn that stuff too.
Yeah, if you want to record the session, essentially, we could do. I think it's just basically you just record your screen. Yeah. So you see, and you could switch.
Exactly.
I think
that's what I want to learn too. And like in-person ones, like we're going off of one camera right now, but I want to have like a B and a C camera where I'm like each face and everything like that too. So
I think we could do like a, if you want to put me on, we could do like a species spotlight or something. Yep. I think that would be cool.
Something cool like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
I could set up my webcam here, just have the whole table, and have different species that you want to talk about, or what
For sure.
the case may be.
No, that would be fun.
Watch me get bit by a
right.
Which iguana bite hurts the worst?
Yeah, right. Basically, it's like that Coyote Peterson guy where he's getting stung and bit by things all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been pretty special for me, and I'm happy that you were willing to do this and everything like that. This
I was super excited since the day we talked about it. I've been, I've been excited. To do it.
So I know it was like a conversation we had months ago, but I'm like, I didn't forget about it. I'm like, I want to do this, so I thought today would be a good day. But
for sure. Yeah.
Thank you for so much for coming on. I
definitely. It. Thanks for having me. More, whenever you're in town next, or again with the webcam, I'm always willing and happy to do it. Just to sit and chat. I love talking about reptiles. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you do me a couple favors, if you could first check out Mitch Belleville's stuff, I'll leave links down below, as well as if you could check out my stuff, I'll have some posts for my social media as well too. And if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it, as well as hit the notification bell so you know when I upload. And until next time, we're going to see you guys soon.